Hello and welcome to Inside America. I'm Selina Downes. Coming up on the show, the World Cup arrives stateside and it is one of the most ambitious tournaments in its history. 48 teams, 104 matches played across the United States, Canada and Mexico. Here in the US, the excitement is building.
USA, woo! Let's go!
But there are major concerns too: sky-high prices, strict border policies, and tensions between host nations. So what will this World Cup look like in Donald Trump's America?
And there's probably so many fans from being able to go to games. My friends, none of them are going to games. They're just trying to find places to watch the games.
Checking about the ticket, but I sound like expensive, man. It's too much.
Despite the criticism, this World Cup promises to be big and brash, with President Trump's own unique sense of spectacle. I came to find out what Americans think about co-hosting one of the biggest sporting events on the planet.
Please welcome 4 United States Marines and the FIFA Peace Prize. Football unites the world.
Football, as it's called in much of the world, has evolved into a multi-billion-dollar entertainment industry. This World Cup is no exception.
Please welcome President of the United States of America, Mr. Donald J. Trump. Please.
The draw in December was an over-the-top extravaganza. Less about football and more about a FIFA Peace Prize awarded to the US president by his good friend Gianni Infantino.
Thank you all. Thank you. Have a great time. And Johnny, a tremendous honor. Thank you.
You can make million dreams, but you got to know this one thing no man doesn't all my...
Soccer, as it's called in America, succumbed to the Trump effect. It's a far cry from the game that was popularized in the US by immigrants. Here in North Carolina, soccer fans meet for a pre-match tailgate, an American tradition. They share food and anecdotes and revel in a sport they've come to love.
Go USA, woo! Let's go!
The world has been a mess, needless to say, so it's good to have everyone out here supporting each other, but also supporting our country. Every time we come out to games, the city comes out, children, family, friends, the city just comes out to support the team. So I feel like it's just great and uniting all of us.
FIFA's slogan is "Football unites the world," but critics say the US is alienating it. The Trump administration has launched a trade war against co-hosts Mexico and Canada, a military war against Iran, and a travel ban on more than 30 countries. Senegal is one of the countries the US has cracked down on. Players competing in this World Cup are exempt from strict visa rules, but it's made it difficult for team officials and fans.
I was disappointed because, football is coming people together. We love football and everybody want to come and support their team. And if they ban us who won't come in to support our team, that is, I don't know what FIFA can do with that, but it's very sad.
And then there's the cost of ticket prices.
I got it a long time ago, like $700.
That's $700.
Expensive. Yeah, it is expensive. It is more expensive right now.
Some fans, like Curtis Walker, say this is the most expensive and inaccessible World Cup ever.
I think FIFA's gouging fans. I think it's ridiculous. Because, football's a people's sport, and the price you got to pay to stay to go to football games, it's ridiculous. We're working people, and we want to see football, but they're charging fans money that only companies can afford.
Many fans are hoping prices will come down as the tournament progresses.
Originally they were just outrageous, and there's probably so many fans from being able to go to games. My friends, none of them are going to games. They're just trying to find places to watch the games. I was able to find some tickets early in the lotteries, and then we're slowly watching the prices come down. We saw the Germany Curacao game. Those tickets were around $900. for tickets around a month ago, and now they're down to around $500. So hopefully in the next week or two, they'll come down even further.
And it's hoped the tournament will help further drive soccer's popularity in America. As a host nation, the US Soccer Federation expects to receive around $100 million from FIFA, which it plans to reinvest in youth development, coaching and infrastructure. While the off-pitch controversies remain a persistent backdrop to this World Cup, it's likely criticism of this tournament could be forgotten when the final whistle blows and the golden trophy is lifted.
Well, unfortunately, there will be no football here in DC, but there'll be plenty of people watching with special scrutiny on how the politics will shape this tournament. To discuss this, I'm joined by Ernesto Castaneda, the director of the Center for Latin American and Latino Studies at the American University, and Vitas Carosella, a sports journalist specializing in sports diplomacy and international relations. Welcome to you both. The global spotlight really is on this event, not just because of what is happening in the world right now, but also because of the internal politics here at home. Will this be unity in football, or will this be politics at play?
The World Cup is always a very anticipated event. It's a world celebration, a world party. Hopefully it's not a wasted opportunity, because Mexico, US, and Canada are partners in trade. And the Trump administration wanted to fight against the dependency on trade with China. The way to have done that is to collaborate more in productions in the region of North America. Unfortunately, we have seen there's tensions, political tensions between the US and Canada and Mexico. So rather than celebrate this as a North American project and a proof that we can do things together, it's still seen as three countries hosting things the way they can.
I sort of feel like when the bid was first put in a decade ago, it sounded like a great idea on paper, and obviously the United States, Canada and Mexico had a very different relationship. Now there are fractured relations. You mentioned, there is a trade war that the United States has launched against both Mexico and Canada. How much do you think the politics will play out in this tournament?
I think the reality is that the politics will play out and continue to play out until the first game starts. And then, like most tournaments, once the games begin, the focus will shift to what's happening on the field. And then after the tournament wraps up, we'll kind of do a recap of what's been going on. And so the politics will kind of resurface. I think the other thing that's clearly worth mentioning is the fact that this is an unprecedented World Cup in that there is a global conflict happening right now. And what we have is one of the host nations actively in conflict with one of the nations that's going to be participating in the World Cup, which has never happened before. And
Iran and the United States, obviously at war. We are unlikely to see the iconic photograph of the two posing pre-match back in 1998. That was a rare show of football diplomacy. How do you think that will play out on the field here? Obviously, they're not facing each other in the group stages.
Well, there'll be tensions, because that will be another example and reminder that for people traveling from Iran, it will be really hard for families, for regular fans to do it. There may be some unfortunate shouting matches in the streets between locals and others, but also a reminder that there's a big Persian community in LA, and there's people from Iran and the region that have been living here for a long time that may be also US citizens. So it'll be a celebration for them, an opportunity to route for the people and the culture of Iran. But yes, at the political level, very tense. The Iran team asked to play in Mexico to avoid this. The FIFA rejected that, and Trump said, okay, we'll go with what Infantino at FIFA is saying. So that's interesting seeding of that terrain. It's good that Iran wants to play football anyway and let the match and the ball decide what happens. But indeed, it makes it for a very unprecedented type of dynamic.
Yeah, Vitas, a lot has been made about the affordability and accessibility of this World Cup, and about the cost of ticket prices, the cost of travel, hotels. I mean, this is a sport that was popularized in the US by immigrants. Are they a lot of them being shut out of this event?
I certainly think in a way they are. And that is an unfortunate reality. I think what we're seeing is that this is going to be the most expensive World Cup ever. And it's going to be the most difficult to attend for people who have lower incomes or come from different countries and have to travel Accommodation is quite high, although I think what we've seen already from other media reports is that the hotels are not seeing the boost in economic activity that they were expecting. Host cities in general are not seeing the incoming traffic that they were hoping for. And for a piece I put together in a different outlet, I spoke to a few people in the Latino community in Kansas City, which will be hosting 4 teams and 6 games. And the reality is that they said they were very excited when Kansas City won the rights to host games for the World Cup. They, were kind of motivated to take part, and then since they saw the ticket prices come out, and since there's been more talk of kind of ICE being out in the communities and certain domestic policies being implemented around the games, that enthusiasm around the World Cup has kind of diminished in certain communities. And so what we're going to see is fans, especially local fans who can't afford to go to the games, we're going to see them try and find other ways to celebrate the World Cup, which is something that I think we see in every World Cup.
I mean, isn't that just sport at this elite level, that ordinary people are often priced out of this?
The issue that we see is that it's a region that is as big as all of China or all of Europe. Games happen in different places. So the distance between Vancouver and Toronto is huge, but so is between New York and Mexico City. And even Mexico City and Monterrey are pretty far. So we won't see the festivity and the people exchanging in the partaking of parties and watching games in cafes, in restaurants, in the streets that we normally see in other World Cups. So that's going to diminish a little bit for the experience for the locals in the 3 countries. It's going to be a very VIP type of World Cup, given the prices and the logistics around getting into the games, but that's exactly what Trump likes, right? But it's still, the game is a game of the people, so I think we can wait for it to get started.
Yeah, just to jump in on Ernesto's point there, I do think that this World Cup, because of the prices and the accessibility and affordability, it does beg the question who the World Cup is for. Like, why do we have this global sporting event? Is it because we want to have a festival where we include as much of the world as possible? Or is it because we need to drive revenue and then put that revenue back into the game? And can it do both effectively? I think what we're seeing right now is kind of that tug from one side to the other. It is true, of course, that FIFA does take most of the revenue or much of the revenue and put it back into the game. I think we would need to scrutinize how much of that money is put back in and where it goes, what it funds. I would also ask the question, if that's the case, why is this World Cup so much more expensive than previous editions? Why do we make that jump in costs? And then to Ernesto's point about, getting more kids involved and kind of growing the sport, which is the purpose of FIFA and the World Cup as its pinnacle event. I have my doubts if it's going to actually push the game on as much as we hope it to. I don't know what the expectations are, the exact numbers that they're looking for, but the reality is that football is a sport that is predominantly played in the cities by kids who have access to the field or whatever field that they can play in. And here in the US, what we've done is we've made football a suburban sport that costs quite a lot of money, requires quite a bit of transportation and time and effort from parents to actually bring their kids to and from games. And so what we need to do here in the US if we want this sport to take off is actually find ways to lower the barrier to entry, which is kind of exactly the opposite of what we're seeing around the tournament itself. The barrier to entry to actually see a game is quite high. So it is kind of a disconnect in some ways between what this tournament is showing and what we need for the country to grow the sport.
If I can add to that, indeed, youth soccer in the US is too organized. You need too many resources from the parents, and it's too bureaucratic. So for streets in Brazil that they play in the streets, and that's how they learn how to improve their skills, or in the beach in Australia, if you do that in the US, it's very hard to get into the travel teams and to go up, because the students the players get tracked into these professional things, and then some of them may make it into the professional team, which also, if we see the US team, it doesn't represent the diversity and the backgrounds and the type of people that play soccer in the US. It doesn't get reflected in the US because of these issues. So we have to do a lot of work to make it really more democratic, and that people that want to play and enjoy the game can have an access through a professional career in the US, which is more limited compared to other countries. And indeed, the language of Trump of unwelcoming and the policies that make it hard for visitors and for immigrants to move around, it's been a big deterrent for people in the developed world, but also in Europe that don't want to come and go through the hassle in the airports to see if they're going to be let in or not. Most of them will be fine with the tickets, they'll be okay, but some of the people don't want to bother. So that's already a missed opportunity. Mexico and Canada may gain a little bit from that. And the other thing is that there's a fear that if ICE is going to be doing raids in the stadiums, I don't think so, because it's indeed a business. It's a lot of money here. It's a lot of people with resources that go there.
They won't want the optics to spoil an event
you'll get
like
on the way and it
this.
will spoil it. So I don't think that's going to happen. So people shouldn't be afraid of that.
But do you think it has put people off? The travel ban, for instance,
Yes,
has put
yes.
people off traveling here.
And make people afraid not to be too close to the stadium celebrating in public, because then things may happen. So things are going to be more in private, in living rooms, in restaurants, where people will do the celebrations that maybe in the past will have been more public, more in the streets.
More than 30 countries banned Vitas.
Yeah, just to touch on the travel ban, it's not that people are going to be put off, it's that simply they won't be allowed to come. Fans from Iran will not be able to travel to the US and watch their games. Fans from Senegal, fans from other countries, Haiti. I mean, when you think about it, for some of these fans, it may be the only time that they have an opportunity to see their team play in person, and it's being taken away from them because of political decisions. And so we'll have fans that cannot come, and we'll have fans that do not want to come because of the situation on the ground here. I think what we have for maybe the first time ever is a host that is very, very off-putting for a lot of visitors. I mean, we had controversies around Qatar, we had controversies around Russia, but they were openly welcoming people from other countries, or at least some segments of people from other countries. I think this is maybe the first time that we have a host nation actively saying, you cannot come. You from this country cannot come. And that's just the complete antithesis of what the World Cup is supposed to represent.
Absolutely. Great to chat to you both. Thank you so much for taking the time to come up here on such a lovely day in Washington. I hope you're watching the tournament. Good luck to whoever team you're supporting. I want to thank you both, Ernesto and Vitas. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Selina.
Well, now there's been so much talk about the expense of travelling to this World Cup, but there had been a great hope that the tournament would help kickstart a floundering US economy. To talk about this, I went to meet with Professor Lisa Del Pinarotti, an expert in sports tourism, and the impact of so-called mega events.
Well, there's economic impact studies that go from 5 billion to 50 billion, and they say each city is going to get 500 million, but I estimate that those are all a little bit too much. I think some of the cities that are going to hold more matches, especially the quarters and semis, are going to get more. I'd say about 100 million to 300 million, whereas the others will get more closer to 50 to 100 million. But you have to think really it's the FIFA staff that come in a month in advance and stay in hotels. It's the media who needs to go, and so they're in the hotels. You have all of the teams that are staying in hotels, and then you have the fans. And people always think the fans are the biggest part of the economic impact. It's not always that way, especially in the United States where there's so many domestic fans. Unlike in Qatar, everybody had to fly over there and stay in hotels, but we have so many diaspora, so every team has enough fans to fill that stadium, and they're not all flying in. So I think initially FIFA said about 40% of the stadium is going to be filled with international fans, but that's in other countries. So if you think of Germany, people could come in within 2 hours from 4 different countries over there. So those were international fans. Whereas here in the United States, we have fans from different countries inside the United States.
How are some of the local economies trying to capitalize on this event?
Right. There was a major competition between over 100 cities trying to get a team to come stay in their location. And some were very successful, and they're leveraging it. I mean, the economic impact comes from the hotel stays, dining out, going to tourist attractions, museums, amusement parks. So that's, again, contributing to the local economy.
And hoping that it will maybe grow and further drive the sport at the grassroots level, particularly with youth soccer?
Yes, I mean, one of the main reasons that FIFA gave United States the World Cup in '94 as well as now is to grow football in the United States. As you know, it's not the most popular sport that we have here, but the number of youth competing and then our professional league, MLS, keeps growing, including the women's league. So I think you're going to see a great trajectory of soccer in the United States after the World Cup, like we saw in '94.
Does it need more funding and investment in the facilities or in promoting the sport or corporate sponsorship deals? What is it that is holding it back from, say, reaching those heights of American football?
To be honest, the biggest obstacle that we have is that most of soccer is pay to play. We have these programs in the United States, and they started out as recreation programs that are government funded and in school, but then we started these structures where kids come in and they move up levels and they want to start traveling and competing against other teams, and then you start paying coaches. And then when you added traveling to different tournaments and spending money on the tournaments and hotels and travel, that all adds up. So now there's many, like USA Soccer Foundation has a foundation that, well, they build fields and then they support free to play programs. And I think that is what's going to happen with the money that's coming in for World Cup. There's going to be more free access and trying to make soccer accessible for all.
That was Professor Lisa Del Pinerotti from George Washington University. Well, despite much pessimism, the World Cup is a huge sporting spectacle and football fans around the globe are excited. TRT sports correspondent Lance Santos will be here covering the tournament. I talked to him about what he's looking forward to and what he expects from the new expanded format.
There's an argument to say it's going to be amazing because we're going to have incredible teams that we've never seen before, like Carosella making the list, and we've got more African teams than before. But there's also an argument to say that when in sport you lose a lot of jeopardy, you lose a lot of fun, which means that, there isn't so many groups of death as there were before because you've diluted the competition. And also then in saying that, if there is a major shock, think back to 2010 when the French team refused to come off the bus for training and they lost to South Africa in their last game. They were eliminated from the group.
How do you think that more matches will affect the players and the standard of play that we're going to see?
Well, I think managers have to pick deeper squads. We've known that. And I think for the elite teams, it's not going to be a problem at all. I think they can rotate players easily. But I think for sides that only have 2 or 3 big stars in their team, I'm talking about good teams still, they may struggle a bit because you've got to factor in the more games, and the heat is insane out there at the moment. Playing under these conditions is going to be pretty severe. So more games always equals more injuries. And I think obviously players have a huge domestic season at the moment. So definitely we're going to see fatigue. But fatigue is good for fans, not good for players, great for fans because defenses open up and we get goals.
That's what we like to see, definitely. It makes it more interesting. Does the home ground advantage help the host nations?
The home crowd advantage always helps the teams that are playing at home. Of course, they've got all of the support. They know the area. They know the familiarity of playing on these American pitches.
Is Team USA under more pressure to perform being one of the hosts?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No question about it. You are under so much pressure as the host to get out of your group. And also for fans around the world, you want to see Mexico, you want to see Canada, and you want to see USA doing well. You want the hosts there because it keeps that atmosphere from all of the local fans in the tournament. And we know football, soccer, whatever you want to call it, isn't massive in the US compared to the other sports. So long as the USA stays in the competition, you're going to keep that magic and that atmosphere that the locals provide into that fixture. But yeah, the USA are definitely under pressure.
Given the portrayal of the United States right now, are you looking forward to being in the US?
I think with World Cups, you always have issues. So I take you back to Russia. There was question marks before the tournament began over fan violence that we'd seen from the Russian fans at the Euros. There were question marks over safety, and it was absolutely brilliant. It was incredible. The atmosphere was wonderful. There were question marks over the crime in South Africa, where I'm from. I know how bad it gets out there, but the government, they do a good job when it comes to the World Cup. They find a way. I was at the Brazil World Cup before. The same question marks over crime, over stadiums, over transport, and it all worked out brilliantly and with atmosphere. And look, I think what a lot of people are forgetting as well is look at the Super Bowl. Look at the NFL. Look at the NHL. Look at the baseball out there. These are mega sporting events. I know the Super Bowl, it's like going to be like having mega mini Super Bowls all around the country. And I think the Americans will do a fantastic job. Politically, I have no friends in London that aren't going for those kind of reasons. And I know there will be a lot of people that will be scared from this. I know there are a lot of people that will run into visa issues as well. And I think it's sad. I think it's a shame. But I think in terms of the actual tournament, I think it's going to be brilliant.
TRT Sports correspondent Lance Santos there. Well, that's it for this World Cup special of Inside America. Good luck to whoever you are supporting. We'll see you next time.